Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Forged in the Spirit podcast. Hope you've all had a good week this week. I know if you're here in northwestern PA or around the area, you know that we got hit with all the seasons in one day just a couple days ago. Started with rain, sunshine came out, was a beautiful day, and then it ended up snowing and got cold. And yesterday was a 30-degree day here, and we can see the little bit of spring coming. It's Friday and it's a real nice day here. I'm happy that the nicer weather's starting to come back around. It's always a good time of year. Brings everybody out of that little bit of cabin fever and seasonal depression to get out and get outside and walk around with your family and your dogs and yourself and just collect your thoughts. It's just wonderful to have this good weather back. And this week it's been busy, jam packed like always. Ended up preaching at a church about an hour away from me, and had a good time like I always do when I go there, and I'll be going there this Sunday as well. And it's always good to see the people there and share fellowship time at those two churches. I also did a little bit of reflecting this week about the podcast and the direction we were going to go this week. I really thought about changing it up, so that's what we were going to do. Prayed about it, even as I sat here this morning, thinking of, what God intended us to talk about throughout this season of Lent, and really giving us time to reflect on our lives, reflect on those around us, and how we can help them out. And I don't think talking about how we're persecuted is a good way to get into the point right now. I think need to take a little time with that one. But so this week I wanted to actually talk about one of the parables that Jesus taught. Jesus talked a lot about parables and given explanations of them. And this one here really hits home, I think, for a lot of us as Christians, and how our lives reflect the love of Jesus. And in the story we see a few different characters, and even ones that you look at your life, and as you have grown up you may see yourself in one of these categories. And parable, very well known parable that they don't even allow us to use in school because it's taught so much. uh it's a parable of the lost son. And I think it's important to really listen to it and learn from different perspectives of this parable. And you see yourself in it from the son's aspect, and as if you're a parent, you might see it as the parent's aspect of what happens and how they come back, how you react, how God would like to see us react to others who are lost. And also from the side of the other brother, who we see is jealous and angry about the way that things played out. And I think we get a lot like that in our lives. We're very known to be jealous, and we see in this parable a lot of that. And so I want to be able to talk about that today, and tell a story that I was told by a pastor friend of mine and share that. And it's amazing the way that you can see it be playing out. So find the parable of the lost son in chapter 15 of Luke. Start at verse 11. There was a man who had two sons. The younger son one said to his father, "Father, give me my share of the estate." So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had and set out for a distant country. And there he squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was severe famine in the whole country, and he began to be in need. And I just want to talk about this part for a little bit here. We see this young man going to his father and wanting his share of the estate. And back then, that was when they divided everything up as far as money or materials or whatever it may be. And that was your inheritance. So he was asking for his inheritance now. He didn't want to wait. And in your life, if you're growing up as a teenager, you want to grow up. You want the world handed to you. You want to go out. You want to do your own thing. That's just part of our human nature as we get older and more. Well, you want to say mature, but you become more immature. And you want to squander it, and you want to live your life. You want to live that fast life. And I know I got that when I was younger. I always said, I want to have my own rules. I don't want to listen to all these. I want to do my own thing. And we get caught up in that so much. And this young man was getting caught up in that lifestyle. He wanted to go out, he wanted to do his own thing. And when he goes out and he spends everything he has and there's a famine, now he's in a rut. He's stuck in this time in life where he has nothing. He has nowhere to live, he has nothing to eat. And don't even think of it now in a physical sense, think of it as in a spiritual sense. So, you're created and you grow up and now you have a mentality where you can think on your own. So, you go out and you live a fast life now. You're like, "I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna live life the way I wanna live it, and I'm gonna do whatever I want." So now, you have squandered that wealth of free will that God had gave you, and you start living this fast lifestyle. Eventually, just like when you have money and you spend it all, it's going to catch up to you. Now you're going to start to feel kind of like you don't have a place to be. You don't have anything to eat. You're just down in the dumps. You're down in the middle of nothing. You were spiritually depleted and you can't turn to anything else because there's nothing there for you. There's no money to get you out of the situation. There's no there's just no way you feel like you can get out of it. So now you see it from a physical sense of this young man, see it in a spiritual sense. He left his father, he wanted to live his life. So that's like you disconnecting from God. And so now we go on, start at verse 15 now. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country who sent him to his fields to feed pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. So now he's working and he's trying to make money back just for somewhere to sleep, somewhere to eat, but nobody's helping him out. He is now on his own. He's lost. He has nothing to do. And when he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have more food to spare? And here I am starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father." So now he realizes that he has to go back and ask for forgiveness. He's got to go back to his father who gave him everything that he had and expect just a little bit of compassion to be a worker for him. He doesn't even see that his father would even forgive him. Just send me out to the fields to work. All I want is some food and I just want somewhere to lay my head. We get to that point. We get to that point in our spiritual life where we realize and recognize that we can't do what we thought we could do on our own. We have set off on our own path, and our path has led us nowhere but deeper and deeper into darkness. I mean, I want you to think about it, and I really want you to discern about your life and where you have been. When you were on your own and you hit a snag, you probably went, "Well, I can do this. I can keep going." You keep going, it doesn't work. Again, it happens and you go, "Well, okay, I can do this. I know I can do this." And then you fail yourself again. When we look at ourselves and we can have this high level of failure rate. If you think you're gonna go out there, you're gonna make a bunch of money, great. And you go make a bunch of money. Look at me, I'm successful. But you got nothing else but that money. Well, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna get all the girls, and I'm just gonna live this lifestyle. Look at me, I'm the man. But what has that filled you with? Compassion? I doubt there's a lot of compassion. You got money, you got the girls, you got everything going for you, you think. But deep down, you're still in this darkness. And so you think you got everything, but reality, you got nothing. All you got is this hole being filled with these physical, worldly things because we see the world as such a great place to to find new things and experience these highs, and then you dip into these lows, so you got to go experience another high, and in reality you're just farther and farther going into the valley. This child, this young man has experienced that. He's experiencing this, what he thinks is a high, spending his money on prostitutes and parties, to find out that all that brought him to the lowest place in his life. And now he's got to go back to his dad, who, he's a human. This dad's a human. So do you expect him to just be like, okay, you're forgiven, sorry? No, you're really thinking, boy, this guy has nothing to gain from me going back after I took my inheritance, some of his money, and squandered it. So he goes back expecting the minimum that he could try to get, and that's to be a servant. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him, and filled with compassion for him, he ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger, sandals on his feet. Bring the fatted calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and he is found. So they began to celebrate. So this father didn't just go off into the distance, sees him, arms crossed, stone faced, angry to even see his son's face. No, when he was off at a distance, the father ran to him and had compassion and threw his arms around him, kissed him, and just was so thankful that he was back. I can't imagine what the son felt like, in that moment of, wow, I took this guy for everything that I was taking, and now he's sitting here hugging me and embracing me, and how long has it been since he's even seen him? He knows the lifestyle he lived because he's probably dirty, covered in pig crap and everything else, stinking, and this father is just embracing him for everything he has. And he's showing this compassion that us as humans don't understand, because this young man had a brother. It was split between and his brother was still at home working. So now you got the brother in the background, and this is how we feel when you get to the verses here. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came to the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. Your brother has come, he replied, and your father has killed the fatted calf because he was found safe and sound. So the older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. That's how we feel when we see somebody go through a hard time and they come back and they're given this celebration and everybody's ecstatic that they're back. Meanwhile, we've taken the time to not go away. So now here it is. You were lost. You needed an outlet, so you're like, I'm going to go back to that covenant in which I need to feel better and feel where I am warm. I have somewhere to lay my head. I have somewhere to put my problems. So spiritually, you may be like the young man now. You're depleted. Where do you turn back to? You turn back to the Father. So now, and I see this in my sense, when I went back to church, when my wife took me back to church and I started to understand how lost I was and what I needed, I went right to God and said, please forgive me for everything I did. I wanted to live this wild life. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. The world just looked so pleasing to my eyes. I don't feel worthy to be your son anymore. I don't feel worthy to be your child anymore. And God didn't stand back with stone faced, crossed arms. No, he came running to you with compassion and embraced you. The parable of the lost son is us leading this worldly life and coming to the conclusion, I can't do things on my own. I need the one who is divine, outside of time and space, somebody that created me, somebody that shows me love and compassion beside me the whole time. He never leads me astray. Anytime I can put my burdens on him, I can't do that with any human person. I can't seek righteousness in humans. I got to seek my righteousness in the Father, who was a creator, who gave me his son, built this new covenant. So when I start to understand I need to repent of all those things I did, I can go back to him and he's going to embrace me with open arms because the pig crap has caked me in. I'm starving for spiritual life. I have nowhere to lay my head, and when I die, I don't want to be separated from living a life with God in heaven. So I'm going back to him, and I don't expect him to forgive me because of all I did, because I'm never going to be good enough to be called your son again. And he takes me in. He kills the fatted calf. He he smiles and he says, "You were once lost, but now you are found." And we look at the way that people react. I know there's probably people that listen to this podcast that say, "Wow, this guy, you should see how he is in life." Trust me, I'm not perfect. But when I was into the point where I was in the dirt, when I was in the pig pen scrambling for pods and nobody was giving me any, I ran right back to God and he forgave me and gave me compassion. He still looks down on me and says, you could do better and you can, quit with your mouth because the tongue's hard to tame and you can be a better person to everybody. But in that moment when I needed him most, he shared compassion with me. And, people were standing back just like the older brother, I'm sure, because we as a church, we see people out there doing this and finding God. And, as people say, well, he found religion or whatever. But, we stand back and we're like, I can't believe this. For years, I've been going to church. For years, I've been doing this. I have been beside you the whole time. This is what the brother says to the father. Father says, look, all these years, I've been slaving for you, never disobeyed your orders, yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you killed the fatted calf for him. And the father says, my son, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we have had to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and found. We should be happy when people start to join our families, when they see the things that has gone on in their world, when they see that the world doesn't care about them, but God cares about them. We should care about them also. We should not act like the brother. We should not be jealous. We should not be trying to be like, well, we always have done better. We have always been with you. We have followed your laws, even though we can't follow them to the T because that's our human nature. But I have not left you, and you're having this big celebration. Yeah, because the devil hasn't won again. The devil has lost. This brother of yours has come back. He has realized what he has done is wrong, and he's coming back home, and he wants to make his life better. He wants to be worthy again. He wants to feel that self-worth of having somewhere to be, have people surrounding him with love. And just like we did as a family before, we can again. And this young man realized how much he needed that, and that is what we do. We we want to realize that when we're away, we are pretty much worthless to ourselves, and we constantly downplay life, and we think the world is our oyster and that it owes us everything, and the world just looks so pleasing to do things, but it's just not, and the world takes us so quick away. And what we have done and what God has done for us is gave us a way to come back. And Jesus is that second chance to come back because he paid our debt. And the story that I was told by a pastor friend of mine shows how happy God is when we come back through Jesus Christ. And the story is like this. There's a young boy, he's in his dad's garage, and he makes this boat out of popsicle sticks and some old cloth. And it's a little sailboat. And he's so happy that he built this little sailboat. It just looks so perfect to him. He really wants to test it out to see if it can do what he created it to do. So he goes down the road a little bit, and there's a ditch and it's running water, and so he places the boat in the ditch and it floats. It's doing just what he created it to do. But then the wind picks up and it takes that boat and it takes it down the ditch, and the little boy's chasing after it, but the stream is just faster than him and it ends up sailing away. And this little boy just feels so defeated that this boat had taken with the current and is gone and out of his sight. Well, while the boy is walking downtown one day, he ends up going past a window shop, and in the window shop, he sees a sailboat. He bursts through the door and he goes, "My boat, my boat." And the shop owner says, "No, my boat. But for $29.99, you can have it back." So the little boy, he goes out and he starts cutting people's grass. He starts trimming hedges. He finds any job that he can find to make money. So he goes back to the shop, and later on he goes back to the shop, and with he shoves his hand in his pocket, he pulls out like $31.17. He throws it on the counter and he goes, "Here, you can keep the change. I just want my boat back." And the shop owner hands his boat down to this young boy. And the young boy, with his cut up hands and just beat tired, he looks at the boat. He goes, "At first I created you, and now I have bought you." Look at God in that instance. He puts us out into the stream, and the devil blows the wind, and it picks up, and we just go screaming down the stream, and he's chasing after us, and we just go so far out of sight that God created us to do this job, and now we're just doing whatever we want. We're just floated down that stream. And the devil takes us in. And God sees us and he goes, "That's mine, that's mine." And the devil says, "No, it's mine." And what does God do? God gives us Jesus Christ. And Jesus pays off our debt. And God says, "Keep the change. I beat you. You nipped at my heels, but I crushed your head." And he's holding us back. And he says, "I created you, and now I bought you with the blood of Jesus Christ on the cross. So when you come back, when your life is down, you can come back to me, and you will be my child again. You're never too far gone. You're never in so much sin that God will never forgive you, because he forgives you when you repent and you earnestly seek him and you want to get out of that pig crap and you want your stomach fed and you are just downright at your worst. God embraces you with compassion. He created you, he bought you, he loves you. And don't act like the brother, because you should love those who come back and experience the high of being a child of God, experiencing in their life the greatest gift they were ever given: life, forgiveness, repentance, and love. Reflect on where you were, reflect on how life has been for you. Have you been the younger son who took his inheritance of having heaven and squandered it in the world? Are you the brother that you see all these people coming back to God, and you see all these videos on the internet of people who were just downright living lowly lives and sinning all the time, and they get back to God, and you're angry because now God's going to favor them too, and you're jealous because you've tried to live your best life, dang well knowing that eventually you've messed up. The church needs to be like the Father. The church needs to openly embrace people who are coming from low points in their life and trying to make themselves better. Because God is so happy when the lost come back. In the parable of the lost sheep, Jesus says to the tax collectors and the Pharisees, I welcome sinners, or the teachers say, this man welcomes sinners and eats with them. And Jesus said, suppose one of you has had 100 sheep and loses one. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? Each one of us needs to be searching for that lost sheep. We see it when Jesus calls his disciples out. We won't get too far into the detail, but we need to be open to embracing people back. If you're out there and you're listening to this podcast right now and you're at the lowest of your low, you go right to a church, you go right to a person, a believer, somebody that we talked about in the Beatitudes, somebody who was lost and found and they found God. Have a conversation with them. I know I've had a roadside conversation with somebody. I never feel like I'm going to be good enough for God to forgive me. And they do. They find this, they find it coming back. Because God embraces us like lost sons. He embraces us with who we are. This week, if you're in need, seek somebody, talk to them. If you're a church, you should be embracing people coming back. You should be out helping people find their way. There are people that are looking for ways out. They go to the Father embraces them. That's what we're called to do. That's what we're called to help with. We're called to be like Christ, embrace them back. The new covenant has come. I love you all. I hope you stay safe. Please still discern during the Lenten season. Reach out. I know I've had some real good conversations with some people via email. Just some uplifting things. Some from friends and acquaintances that talking about God and the power. And I know one of them wants to come on the podcast. I'm so happy that eventually me and him will be having an interview conversation and share it with you all about his life and his walk. And that just makes me excited about this ministry and something that I had this vision with, and it's all coming together according to God's plan, and God has seen this as a way to get the gospel out into the world, and I am so happy about that. I'm excited. I hope you're all excited. I hope you have a good week. I will be praying for you and looking out for your emails. Thank you. I love you. Everybody have a good week.